We are live. We are live. Welcome to college football's peak around the corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do us well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. Do not forget to ring the notification bell if you want to support this true, independent, national college football's rebel outpost with a donation to help us keep the lights on and grow the channel. Just hit that dollar sign where you make your comment, and I will get you super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome everybody into the studio that sits on the corner, the very corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to become a legend with your comments and with your phone calls. It's going to be a very interesting show. We are going to cover a lot, so this could be a long one. So buckle up and brace for impact. You know how it works. At the end of the monologue, and it's going to be a lengthy one, I have to admit, but at the end of the monologue, we're going to take your phone calls. When you call in, the floor is completely yours. You don't have to talk about the things that I talked about during the show. You can take it elsewhere. You can celebrate your team. You can tell us your optimism, or you can tell us that you've been crying in your beer because of how it's looking for your team going into 2026. When you call in, the floor is yours. Super chats, the floor is yours. The other comments, I will pick and choose depending on how interesting, how provocative, how clean, how creative, and if they have anything to do with what we're talking about. Super chats and your phone calls, you get the floor. I'm very humbled that any of you would want to join us on this beautiful Sunday, August 2nd. We are 4 Saturdays away from college football. 4 Saturdays away from college football. I don't understand this. We're 5 Saturdays away. I don't count week 0. We're 5 Saturdays away from week 1. But we're 4 Saturdays away from college football. Why are people making it so complicated? Those week 0 games mean everything to me. Everything. That's the week that the 2026 redemption tour starts for Greg the Gold. That week 0 is everything. Every week in college football is everything. At least here at Peek Around the Corner. Although, this is the place for the college football sickos. So if you're not a sicko, I can understand why you would be so. Week 0 is not really college. It's not a false. It's really not the start of college football season. It's just the old door. Look, the fat guy from Minnesota. When I'm at a restaurant and the little general is sitting across from the table, when I'm reading the menu on what the fat guy is going to get, yeah, okay, I'll look at the entrees. The entrees are really important. I'll get whatever is there that's probably the most calorie item on the menu. I understand that. I'll try to find some protein without cheese somewhere on that menu. But I'm looking at the appetizers. I'm going to attack the appetizers. Of course, it's part of the whole. My meal starts at the appetizers. I don't know about any of you, but my meal starts at the appetizer. So it begins in week 0. We are 4 Saturdays away. Now, this live show, a door has been open to peek around the corner. And I think I might have to take a small L on this. Not a regular size L, but a small L on something. Without we've been reporting here at Peek Around the Corner for months that nothing is imminent. Nothing was signed, sealed, and delivered. But there was a lot of talking going on, a lot of positioning going on. We were accurate. We're not going to take an L on any of that. We were accurate when we told you all, when we reported that there was a quick strike preparation going on. About a week later, Ross Dellinger reported his shot clock. We're not going to take the L on that. We also said that the Big Ten would rather not expand now, and neither would the SEC. They would rather not do that now, but especially the Big Ten, and we're not going to take the L on that. We said on July 31st, July 31st, early Friday, in the early afternoon, we did 2 live shows on that Friday. We talked about how the latest reporting that the Big Ten and the SEC presidents were split on PCSA. And the House strategy comes next. We talked about how the Big Ten really was looking at A, B, C, and D in an issue like 19 and 5. That was going to be that battle was going to be waged a little bit later on in the House. We said in that first live show on Friday, it looked like this was all going to be coming. It looked like the Big Ten was going to support, but there was this other backroom strategy, not just by the Big Ten, but by other schools, one of them being North Carolina. We're going to hit upon that later on. And then later on, Friday night, it happened. We did an emergency live show where the Big Ten and the SEC climbed on a board on the PCSA, supporting it through the Senate. So we're not going to take an L on that. However, I think we need to take an L on something. You know, not last April 7th. No, April 9th. I think it's April 9th when we do our prediction show. I think it's April 9th. It's April 7th or April 9th. April 9th, 2025. Because a lot of people were asking me, Greg, you keep talking about all these talks going on, but nothing was imminent. You did not believe that anybody was going to file a notice of withdrawal before or on before June 1st of 2026. But yet, there's all this talks going on. Greg, what do you think is going to happen? And I said, I don't know, but I'll give you my prediction in time. Well, on April 9th, 2025, it was a prediction, not a report, a prediction. And I predicted North Carolina, Virginia, Florida State, and Clemson to the SEC. I predicted Notre Dame and Miami to the Big Ten. 99% of you understood that it was a prediction. I also said I had about a 1% chance of getting it right. It was not a report. We are a long ways away from anything happening. Nothing was imminent. Nothing was signed, sealed, and delivered. Just a prediction. That's all it was. Then this last April 9th prediction show of 2026, I gave out my prediction. And I got to be honest, I really don't even remember what I predicted. I think it was something along the lines of North Carolina State, Florida State, Clemson to the SEC. And then in the Big Ten, I think I had Miami, Notre Dame, Duke, and Virginia. I think that was it. It doesn't even matter. Because at that time I said I had a 1% chance of getting it right. Because it was only a prediction, not a report. Not based on any, not enough chat, not enough of anything. So I'm not going to take the L on the predictions because those are not reports and nothing has happened yet, and I was not offering them up they were not much of value, only for us to keep talking about what we all thought. But I do have to take an L. you can all determine the size of the L, because I really do not know how to measure it. In 2025, I had come to the belief that the Southeastern Conference, and I could be absolutely wrong, but I was thinking more large scoop for the Southeastern Conference, small scoop for the Big Ten. And then in 2026, my prediction, based upon a whole lot of chatter that I was hearing, some of it I've never been able to talk about, some of it I've been able to release to you all. I put the SEC at a big scoop and the Big Ten at a big scoop. But when I put my prediction out there, again, it was just a prediction, just something to talk about, speculate on. I'm not trying to be wrong, but definitely not a report. Nothing like when I talked about USC, Colorado, and all the other stories that we've been fortunate enough to help break on this channel. But a door has been opened to us. There is now a realization here at Peek Around the Corner that the Big Ten was flirting and possibly may continue to flirt, depending on the 19-5 battle that is going to be waged. The Big Ten was flirting with their own big scoop. And when I made my prediction, my heart wasn't completely in it. You know, even though I predicted it, but now a door has been opened, and it may continue to be something that they regroup and flirt with, depending on the battle of 19-5. We're going to talk about more on that. I'm just setting the table. A door was open to us. There's a reason why. There was a logical reason why the Big Ten was flirting heavily with the big scoop scenario of their own. If the playoffs go to 24 teams, which they believe it will happen. And there is a bubbling up of evidence that the Big Ten was flirting with their own big scoop. And I think there's a chance that it's going to become very apparent that the Big Ten was flirting with their big scoop heavily. Which I got to be honest once again, I wasn't all that big of a believer in that, even though I predicted it. Look, Mohr, I got to give a lot of credit to Mohr and others out there who have been talking about the Big Ten doing more than 2 schools in this next wave. You know, I'm open to it. I was open to it. I'm like, yeah, I did the old, sure, that could happen. But I was really never, I had chatter telling me that it could, but now a door has been wide open to me, fortunately. And it was more serious than I believed. But I'm not sitting here and reporting. I'm not reporting that the Big Ten would have done a big scoop or they will do a big scoop. But that was up there with the small scoop. Like, it was very feasible. And the evidence is out there. And we're going to talk. And the evidence is going to become apparent. So that is probably why. Well, you know what? I'll save the rest to the back half of the monologue. We got a lot to talk about on that. So as you can see, the Miami Hurricane, the Florida State Seminole, the Clemson Tiger, the North Carolina Tar Heel mascot, trying to push that 19-5 Boulder over the cliff. And that is going to be a big story here in the next 3 months, within the next 3 months, or next 2 months. We'll see what happens. We're also going to be doing today our final ACC order of finish prediction. You heard that right. This is it. This is when we all lock it up and everything becomes official. Now, you've got Ryan Brooks, the LSU Tiger. Only 19-5 I want to see is the playoff seedings. Ryan Brooks. We are going to talk about the college football playoffs of 24. We're talking about that in this live show. This is a big show. Big show. Tony Petitti, Silent Tony, he's got his groove on. But Ryan Brooks, you should be out. You should be focusing. You should be happy. You should be happy that Greg the Goal predicted in this SEC final order of finish prediction. Bam! The LSU Tigers come in second. They go to the SEC championship game and they lose by 4. But they're going to go in to the college football playoffs at a pretty high seed. So Ryan Brooks, you should be ecstatic. You should be happy. Let me go to a super chat. So we got a big show in front of us. We got Christopher Hooter. Thank you for starting us off today, Christopher Hooter. $5 holla. and 5 winners. Notre Dame. Yeah. Notre Dame. This is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful dream. A dream come true for the Fighting Irish. Notre Dame number 1. ACC, a viable conference. ESPN, SEC. Cody Campbell, Big Ten. Losers, Clemson, Miami, or Florida State. I would not put SEC or Big Ten down as winners. Because, for example, if this gets changed in the House and the cap number is 20 or 22 or 24, or there is no cap winner, I would definitely say that the Big Ten and the SEC are winners. I would not say 19-5. There might not be losers, but they're definitely not winners, in my opinion. Just my opinion. And I don't know if Clemson is more of a loser in this than Miami or Florida State. But yeah, it's going to be more difficult for all three of those programs to move to the Power 2. Thank you, Christopher Hooter. Thank you for your $5 holler. Very generous of you, sir. Thank you for keeping us the lights on, growing the channel. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So, let's do a quick roll call here. I'm already behind. Bracket Cat, Jay Chapman, Daryl's in the house, Old Dad, Nick Kelso, Skaven, yes. Memphis Fig is in the house. We got Kenneth Maynard is here. David Kreisker, Yogi Buck, Manwich is in the house. Manwich is here. Tough Tony. Golden Gophers. Golden Gophers are the only team in the Big Ten that is returning their head coach, returning their offensive coordinator, returning their defensive coordinator, and returning the quarterback. Big Ten is the only team in the Big Ten that is returning all four of them. Look out, Big Ten. Look out. John Dry is in the house. Morris Simmons is here. Buckeye Greg. Mark's Holy Grail. Doc Boots. Manic Reactions. I'm not supposed to call you Maniac anymore. I'm supposed to actually try to speak correctly. Manic Reactions is in the house. Skaven, yes, is here. MM101 12MD, Bo Weevil. I have not seen Bo Weevil in a while. Thanks for coming on in, Bo Weevil. We got Dave B. We got Frank Patat, Virginia Tech Hokie. Who else is here? I know I'm going to miss a lot of people. I apologize. The Almighty, Andrew Watt, the Notorious Sun Devil is in the house. Doc Boots is here. Jay Chapman. Expansion Crush. Casa Grande. Daniel Montcastle, the reigning, defending, undisputed Big Ten champion. Reigning, defending, undisputed national champion. The Indiana Hoosiers is in the house. DCB is here. Thanks for coming on in. I very much appreciate it. I appreciate all you joining us on a Sunday afternoon. You could be doing anything else that you wanted, but you decided to come in here, talk college football, chop it up with the fat guy from Minnesota, Greg the Gold. CF Bump Start is in the house. Stephen Timothy Vitt. We're finally in August. Finally in August. Andrew Watt, love your channel, Greg, since day one. Thank you, Andrew. We are in August. No more of this. No more of this.
I know you told your friend you're not okay. And tell me what's wrong and why you never said you felt that way. And guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long, it hurts to watch your blue eyes fade to gray as you fade away. As you fade away.
Yeah, I'm about to fade away, cause every time I wake up I feel like it's Monday. Something's going wrong with all the chemicals up in my brain. All of a sudden I don't look at anything the same way. Got a buildup of my thoughts sitting in an ashtray. I'm sorry that I'm so inconvenient, okay. Just let me be.
No, we're not going to be playing that song a lot. You know what song we're going to be playing a lot, Cornhusker? You go big red, you. Let me show you the song we're going to be playing a lot this year. It's going to be this one. It is going to be this one. Redemption Tour. No more winning percentage at 40%, at 38%, at 36%. You know, people often ask me, Greg, don't you get embarrassed by your dancing and singing? Your dancing is bad. Your singing may not be as bad as your dancing. But Greg, you run a national college football YouTube channel. This is very serious business, Greg. And you are embarrassing yourself with your dancing and singing. You know what I would say to you all? I would feel embarrassed about my singing. I would feel embarrassed about my dancing. I would. But I'm not because I've had a winning percentage against the spread well under 50% for 4 straight years. That's embarrassing. Everything else, there's nothing that I can possibly do that would embarrass myself more than my picks against the spread. But all of that changes in 2026. That is Greg the Cooler, Greg the Gold guarantee. All right, let's get to it, ladies and gentlemen. We got to talk. We've got to talk some football here. Enough of the shenanigans. Enough of the shenanigans, Eva Badger, $5 holla. Greg, can a conference go past 19 after a school goes independent for 5 years? Well, Eva Badger, I'm going to guess, and I'm going to say no. There is a definite conference cap of a 19. However, got to be honest with you, I do not believe any of us, definitely not I, have seen the final language in this revised bill. We've seen a lot of summary reports. Every single summary report says conference cap at 19 and a 5-year provision to go independent. So the only thing I can go off is by that, and I would say, no, that's not possible, Eva Badger. I could be wrong, but based on the reporting, I believe, no, 19 is a hard cap on conference membership. Thank you for the $5 holla, Eva Badger. I appreciate your generosity so very much. Thank you, sir. Great friend of the program. Great friend. And here is another incredible friend of the program. The purple and gold, Christopher Hooter. You know, I've noticed that none of these LSU Tiger fans, and they're great fans, great PATC family members, Rodney Richborg, Ryan Brooks, Christopher Hooter, Go Black 45, OPD Dunn. We got a whole lot of LSU Tiger fans in the PATC family. And none of them are excited about Greg the Gold's prediction that the Tigers are going into the SEC championship game under the first-year head coach, Lane Kiffin. None of them are excited about it because none of them truly believe that Greg the Gold has arrived. They're all thinking, well, geez, he lowered the boom on my beautiful team. No, I did not. Christopher Hooter. If Cap goes to 20 plus, the ACC no longer viable enough for Notre Dame, ergo can't increase 19 cap without blowing up the current structure. Chaos, casualties everywhere. That's true. I mean, I think the cap at 19 with no 5-year provision would make the ACC pretty much not viable enough for Notre Dame. Now, but that's a very good pulse, Christopher Hooter. I think you said a lot in that pulse, and I think that is incredibly accurate. We're going to talk about the battle of 19 and 5 at the back half of the monologue. I don't think there was much of a battle with the 19-5 in the Senate bill. We talked about that on Friday early afternoon, or I think it was Friday morning even. But the battle will be waged behind closed doors and in public. Thank you, Christopher Hooter. Thank you for the $5 holler. That makes a whole lot of sense. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your generosity. We got Preston from Greensboro, North Carolina. I'm late, but antitrust exemption is probably more important to the P2 than expansion. You're not late, Preston from Greensboro. You're just on time. The biggest reasons that I take the biggest story at the back half of the monologue, because I want to give people time to get into the chat room, see that we're on, give everybody time. So that's why I put that in the back half of the monologue. Everything we talk about in our monologue is important because all of it is college football. Therefore, it's all important. But the story that I have up on the title screen, I usually 95% of the time keep that at the back half of the monologue to give everybody time to get in here. The exception to that is when it's breaking news, and then I lead off with it. If I say breaking news on the title screen or in the title, I'm leading with that story when we just come on air. But to your question or to your statement, I think, yes, the antitrust exemption is what the P2 has wanted. Is what the NCAA and all of its member institutions have wanted. And we talked about this on our Friday morning show. It was important for the Big Ten and the SEC to try to lock in a wide enough, strong enough antitrust exemption to lock it into the Senate bill, because it's going to be hard. It's going to be very difficult to take the toothpaste back in the tube, whatever. It's going to be hard to go back on that for Cantwell and Cruz and everybody else That's what they've given in the Senate bill. Because you weren't going to get anything with it. If you did not get the antitrust exemption, closed off all the loopholes, if that wasn't going to be wide enough and strong enough, then nothing else mattered. Now they got that. Now the battle gets waged on other items, in particular the 19 and 5. Preston from Greensboro, thank you for the $5 holler. Appreciate it so very much. Thank you for the 192 people who have joined us here at College Football Peek Around the Corner. We've already done the dancing. We've already done all the embarrassing things that I do on this national channel. So then let's now get into the football. Again, back half, after the monologue, we're going to open up the phone lines. When you call us, the phone lines is completely open and the floor is completely yours. And of course, Super Chats, the floor is yours. Let's get to it. First of all, before we get to the college football playoff of 24, before we get to the battle of 19 and 5, yes. It is time, ladies and gentlemen. It is time. Remember, in the early spring, we did our ACC way too early. Order of finish prediction. Take a quick look. 17 through 9. There's going to be some changes. There's going to be some changes in this prediction. 8 through 1. Virginia, North Carolina State, Virginia Tech, California, Clemson, SMU, Louisville, and Miami. And now we nail it all in. Just like what we did with the final SCC order finish prediction. Just like we did with the Big 12 final order of finish prediction. Now we will do the ACC. At number 17. At number 17. Boston College. Do you know who has already had the worst luck during the spring, headed into summer camp, headed into August camp? Boston College. The team that did not need bad luck. They lost their tight end, Kalen Tradunsky. Tradunsky is a promising tight end. Caught about 24, 25 passes last year. He was going to be the big main target for their new quarterback, Mason McKenzie, coming out of Saginaw Valley State, and he got a serious injury. Boston College lost their most promising player, one of their most promising players on offense. They could not have, just devastating. Absolutely devastating. Now you got Mason McKenzie coming on in. And I think all of Boston College hopes are going to get rolled up into Evan Dickens, the transfer from Liberty. We talked about him during the Spotlight series early this spring. He had a great year at Liberty last year. He goes in the portal. This was a big get for Boston College. He's going to have to be that superstar for Bill O'Brien. And as we did in the Spotlight, we put KP Price under it, their great safety. He's going to be the glue. Boston College doesn't have much that I can see. And again, they lost a promising tight end. And they used the tight end in Bill O'Brien's offense. Man, what a devastating loss for Boston College. Devastating. Number 17. Number 16, the Stanford Cardinal. Head coach Pritchard. It's going to be interesting to see what he does here. Interesting to see what the new head coach Pritchard does here. It's going to be a fascinating watch. Transfer quarterback from Michigan, Davis Warren. The little that he played at Michigan, he was trying to be nice here. He was incredibly inaccurate. Good player in high school. Again, he had cancer and all that stuff. He's the comeback guy. I mean, he's going to try to come back. He's got another opportunity. He's had a lot of things go against him. We'll see what Mr. Warren can do, the quarterback of Stanford. They're going to rely heavily on Mekhi Ford. The running back, he had about 600 yards last year. He's going to have to go over 1,000 yards this year for Stanford's offense. And we talked about it in the Stanford Spotlight. Benji Blackburn, tight end. That's the name that you're going to want to remember. Blackburn, the tight end of Stanford Cardinal. Linebacker, the leader of the defense, Matt Rose. We talked a lot about him in the Spotlight series. And they got a pretty good secondary. Safety Jay Green and Scotty Edwards. Played a lot of snaps for the Stanford Cardinal. But maybe I could have had them at 15 or 16. That is where the Stanford Cardinals are the Cardinal. Until I see something out of them. They're at number 16. Number 15, I think Fran Brown going into next year is going to be on thin ice. Going to be on very thin ice. Steve Angeli, love him at quarterback. Loved him at Notre Dame. He barely played. Right? He barely played. But when he went into the spring game, when he went into the playoffs a couple of years ago for a little bit, really good. Great high school tape out of New Jersey. He finally gets his chance. Starting quarterback at Syracuse. He had 10 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and then he gets injured. Now this year is going to be mighty difficult. The Orange don't have much of a wide receiver room. We talked about that in the spring. Amari Hatcher. A lot of the guys, they don't have any production in back of them. They're coming off injuries. Demetrius Samuel, the cornerback, we talked about him. Chris Peel. Syracuse might have a pretty good secondary. But Fran Brown, I'm afraid the Syracuse Orange is slipping and sliding here. I think going into next year, Fran Brown might be on the hot seat. I don't think this year. We'll see what happens. But again, Steve Angeli, the starting quarterback. Look, maybe he can get the Orange to a bowl game. I hope he plays the whole entire season because he is a good quality quarterback. I've got North Carolina at number 14. Bill Belichick, there's things to like on this team. I know they've got all the Michael Lombardi situation. There's a whole bunch of things going at North Carolina. Billy Edwards is hot, cold. Got injured in his first game at Wisconsin. But at Maryland, man, he ran hot and he ran cold. They do have some players, though. Demon Blue, the running back. Jordan Shipp, the wide receiver. He's elite. Watch Mr. Shipp. That North Carolina TCU game. Watch Jordan Shipp. Great wide receiver for North Carolina. They got a big old defensive tackle that had really good success last year, Leroy Jackson. You know, the first 4 games, I will explain why number 13 is not there, Manic Reactions. I will explain why number 13 is not there. Hold on. But I'm glad somebody's paying attention. I'm kind of surprised, but somebody's paying attention. Thank you, Manic Reactions. North Carolina's first, look, week 0, North Carolina plays TCU. Week 3, they play Clemson. Week 4, they played Notre Dame. 3 out of the first 4 games is TCU, Clemson, and Notre Dame. I think North Carolina is going to get punched in the mouth. I don't know if they're going to respond to that or not. Preston from Greensboro, North Carolina, in the chat room says good starters, no depth. I could not put North Carolina at higher than 14. Now, the next 2 teams, I have them both at number 12. And neither of these teams really should be they should be higher. I might be making a big mistake with both these teams. I could be making a huge mistake with both these teams. So I wanted to put them together because these are the 2 that I'm proud. If I'm going to strike out at any of these teams, it's going to be these 2 teams. Pittsburgh and Wake Forest. I had Pittsburgh in my way too early order of finish prediction at number 9. I have dropped them from 9 to 12. I love the quarterback, Mason Henschel. Henschel is a good quarterback, had a great freshman season. Again, they got another great linebacker, Braylon Lovelace. Pittsburgh always got a great linebacker. They lost Rasheem Biles. He went in the portal. But they've got Braylon Lovelace. But I do not like their wide receivers. I do not like their running backs. I am questionable on everything else on that football program. I'm losing a little bit of faith in Pat Narduzzi. The Panthers never end the season well. They do not have the depth. They get worn out. It's repeat, repeat, repeat. My dauber is down on Pittsburgh. Am I being too unfair on Pittsburgh? Katarius Hicks, the wide receiver, Ja'Kurian Turner. I mean, he might be. They're not as good as Desmond Reed. Now, Desmond Reed, did you hear about that? Desmond Reed might be coming back to college football. Really good running back for Pittsburgh. Did a lot of things for Pittsburgh. Out of the backfield, wide receiver, caught the ball. I thought he would stick in the NFL as a 3rd down back. But he did not get drafted. And now with this new ruling on the 2022 class, if you played 4 years, you can come back and play a 5th. Desmond Reed might be coming back to college football. And if he does he go back to Pittsburgh? If he does, that might change a little bit here. But again, for now, Pittsburgh at number 12 along with Wake Forest. And let me tell you about Wake Forest. This is where I could be guilty about what I accuse other people doing to my beloved Golden Gophers. I could be a massive hypocrite right here with my Wake Forest pick at 12. Why do I have Wake Forest at 12, tied with Pittsburgh? That seems to be unfair to Wake Forest. They went 9-4 last year. Jake Dicker's first season at Wake Forest. Okay? But I look under the hood. I'm not a fan of Gio Lopez. I don't think North Carolina was his problem. Gio Lopez has said that North Carolina was not his problem. I don't think that. I saw with Gio Lopez, he stepped up in class in the portal, played for North Carolina. I think he's going to struggle against ACC competition as the quarterback of Wake Forest. Of course, they lost their brilliant running back, Claiborne. They don't have him. Now, maybe Ty Clark, maybe KD Daniels, maybe those running backs are going to be the next superstar at Wake Forest. They could be. I could have it completely wrong. They lost all their wide receivers. The only one returning is Carlos Hernandez. They got a speedster named Nye Carr. Again, could it be something special? The defense is going to be the strength of the team once again. They've got a couple of bookends on the defensive line. Gabe Kirsch and Langston Hardy. So they've got dudes. But, man, I look at that. I don't think the defense is going to have to punch way above its weight for Wake Forest to punch above their weight once again. Now, Preston from Greensboro, North Carolina. Lopez is a much better quarterback than he played last year. He's not a pocket quarterback. I get that, and hopefully I'm wrong about Gio Lopez. But, man, I did not like what I saw, and we'll see what happens. Wake Forest at number 12. At number 11. Georgia Tech, Rambling Wreck. Run the ball, run that ball, run that ball again. Head coach Brent Key. Well, let's start off with the quarterback. Massive wild card. Massive wild card. Alberto Mendoza. I have no idea, guys. No idea. Now he's a good athlete. Younger brother Fernando Mendoza, he's smaller, doesn't have the measurables. He's going to get his opportunities. He's got some wheels on him. And then Georgia Tech, Justice Haynes. Massive pickup in the portal. Justice Haynes had a very good year for Michigan last year. You remember he went from Alabama to Michigan, and now he's going to be RB1 for Georgia Tech. But that's not all. They're bringing back Malachi Hosley, a great running back last year for Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech is going to run that ball. So buckle up. Linebacker Kyle Efford is coming back for his 27th season at Georgia Tech. I say that I've had Kyle Efford in the Spotlight Series for 3 straight years in a row for Georgia Tech. The linebacker, he's coming back for yet another year. Georgia Tech, number 11. Now, for Georgia Tech, I had a battle on Do I put Georgia Tech at 11 or 10? 11 or 10? 11 or 10? I put them at 11 because Duke's quarterback, even though it was in the Mountain West Conference, Walker Egan he's got experience. And they've also got themselves a great running back at Duke, Nate Shepard. Outstanding. They got a wide receiver who excelled in FCS, Jared Richardson. At Penn, over 1,000 yards. I'm looking at that. I forget what date that game's at. I don't remember the date of the game, but it's in first week in September. It might not be on a Saturday. Somebody help me out. When does Duke play Illinois? That game I'm going to be watching. Because I'm very scared of the Duke Blue Devils defense. They were not good last year. How Manny Diaz got Duke to win the ACC championship with that defense. And I don't think they're going to be any better this year. Because of the defense, I've got Duke at number 10, not any higher than number 10. Number 9, I'll take Tony White. I would take Tony White and what he's trying to do on defense, bringing in that fabulous, great G6 middle linebacker from Southern Mississippi, Chris Jones, who had 1 million tackles last year. They're making the effort. They are making the effort. And if you look at their running back, Wisner, the guy that from Texas, he had some good moments at Texas. And then Usman Kroma, no longer a freshman running back. He's going to be a sophomore running back. Give that young man the rock. You've got Deuce Robinson, massive tight end, massive wide receiver. Sometimes it looks like a tight end. He might have to play tight end in the NFL. Big guy. Throw that ball up in the air and let Deuce Robinson go at it. Then they got Danzy, the speedy wide receiver. So they got some dudes on that team. I'm not a fan of Ashton Daniels. Now there is some positivity coming out of camp, and it sounds like it's more real than the stuff we heard about Castellanos last year, which I was never a fan of either. I do not like these choices that Mike Novell has done with the quarterback position. The last 3 quarterbacks, I don't know what's going on with the talent evaluation of Mike Novell. Florida State's got players. So 9 might be the floor, not the ceiling. If they had a different quarterback, I could pick Florida State higher. But I can't. Florida State at number 9. Virginia at number 8. The Cavaliers, Tony Elliott. I don't know what to think about Bo Pibula anymore. I went out there on a limb last year for Pibula, who went from Penn State to Missouri. He's another guy that runs extremely hot and extremely cold. He's a tough kid. He'll run that football. He'll hit a guy. He'll try to get that extra yard. Virginia loves running their running. They love running their quarterbacks. They love running their quarterbacks. That's Tony Elliott's offense. Bo Pibula is the right guy for that offense. And they've got Eli Holstein for the backup quarterback who took a lot of hits at Pittsburgh. They've got Peyton Lewis, the running back. Remember Peyton Lewis? He was going to be a big superstar at Tennessee. But Deshaun Bishop kind of took over RB1. So Peyton Lewis went to the portal and he landed at Virginia. And he knows he's going to get the rock. Wide receiver Rico Flores, again, never got to a high level with Notre Dame. We'll see what he does at Virginia. Great linebacker Cam Robinson. Virginia at number 8. I think that is the right spot for them. Now, I do see Virginia Cavaliers being predicted to get... I see a lot of predictions out there that have Virginia at 6, 5, 4. I don't know. I just can't do it. I can't do it. I'm not quite on board with Bo Pibula anymore. Let's put it that way. We'll see what happens. Number 7, PATC final order of finish prediction. The Virginia Tech Hokies. James Franklin, head coach. Again, I am not completely sold on Ethan Grunkmeyer, the transfer quarterback from Penn State. I'm not quite all in on him. We barely saw him play. Yes, he did. He did get some wins as the starting quarterback of Penn State after things went belly up. He was a very highly rated quarterback out of high school. I am extremely interested that they got in the portal Sean Brown of Duke, that great wide receiver for Duke. Good slot receiver for Duke. And now he's coming to Virginia Tech. They've got Aiden Green. That's their number 1 returning starter wide receiver. So the wide receiver room is going to be pretty good for Grunkmeyer. The running back, Marcellus Hawkins, is not what Franklin had at Penn State. To be honest with you, he's not. I don't think he is. The defense is interesting. Brent Pry, the defensive coordinator, used to be the head coach. He's coming back. Very interesting dynamic in Blacksburg. Now, the coordinators under Franklin, they don't last very long, especially the offensive coordinators. We'll see what happens with Brent Pry under James Franklin. Kamari Copeland, the defensive tackle. Tyson Flowers, the safety. We talked about them during the spotlight. Virginia Tech at number 7. I'm going to give them a little bit of an edge over Virginia. But I could not give them a little bit of an edge over the next team, who I had to drop. In my way too early order finish prediction, in spring, I had the Clemson Tigers at number 4. I have them at number 6. Not because of the talent. I'm starting to wonder about Dabo. And I like Dabo. I like him. He's a different personality guy. I think he's a good guy. I'm starting to see. I'm worried. I'm worried about Dabo Swinney. I think he needs a new start somewhere else. And I think he's a Hall of Fame coach. They're going to have a statue in front of the Clemson football stadium for Dabo Swinney. I think they should have went into the portal and got themselves a quarterback. Christopher Vizzini, I don't think he's the guy. Show me I'm wrong. If he can come and show me I'm wrong, I will say, my bad, sorry, I'm wrong. But I don't think he's the guy. Now, I do like Tate Reynolds' high school tape. The backup quarterback out of the state of Arizona, Tate Reynolds. I got my eye on Mr. Reynolds. But Vizina is going to be the starting quarterback, and look, if I'm wrong on this dude, I will admit it. I will admit it. Now, Gideon Davison, we heard a lot about him. The running back, freshman running back of last year, did not get any playing time. He should be RB1 this year. He should be developed enough to know what he should do on third down packages, what blitz concepts he should pick up. Gideon Davison should be the dude. You brought in Chris Johnson, a tremendous transfer pickup for Clemson. Yes, I said it. Tremendous transfer pickup for Clemson. You do not hear that very often, but that's what Dabo Swinney did, getting Chris Johnson. Wesco and Mohr, very good wide receivers. Bryant Wesco, TJ Mohr, love that tight end. Osen, Pat Henry, love that tight end. Clemson's got talent. Sammy Brown, Will Helt. Will Helt was an absolute stud at Purdue as a freshman. Goes to Clemson, and look what he did at Clemson last year. Brilliant. Sammy Brown is a brilliant linebacker. 1 million tackles a year. Clemson's got a lot of talent. My going from 4 to 6 has to do with what I'm seeing with Dabo Swinney and how he's answering questions. I don't know if he's all that confident. I think he's lost his fastball at Clemson. I could be incredibly wrong. We'll see what happens. Number 5. Saga Pulateli. JKS. End of story. Whenever California Golden Bears are playing, I'm going to be trying to watch them. This quarterback, his arm, he's a phenom. Just for that, I have California at number 5. Now, they were able to bring in Washington Husky running back Adam Mohammed. We talked about that in the offseason. And Eon Strons is a great wide receiver from Rutgers. I mean, California mopped up in the portal. The defensive line is good. The linebackers, they lost all their good linebackers. They lost Bush, their great defensive end rusher, and he went to the Gophers. So they did lose some guys on defense. Sagapolatelli, though, is the man. He's the absolute man. California, Tosh Lupoy, the new head coach. Golden Bears, number 5. Number 4. Woo, boy. I had to do it. North Carolina State. I moved them up. 2 reasons why. Number 1, the great C.J. Bailey, the quarterback. I got him as the number 2 quarterback in the conference, right behind Darren Mensah. Now, Sagapolitelli might emerge above both those guys. But C.J. Bailey is the number 2 quarterback in the conference. And then you got to look at that schedule. The Wolfpack schedule, led by Dave Doran, holy smokes. They don't play Miami. They don't play Clemson. They don't play SMU. They play Louisville at home. They're on the road to Stanford, Florida State, UNC. The toughest road game that North Carolina State plays all year is at Florida State. North Carolina State's going to win a lot of football games this year. They're going to win a lot of football games this year. Jaden Scott, the running back. Keenan Jackson, the wide receiver. They're bringing on a lot of wide receiver transfers. I wish they had a more proven, productive wide receiver room to go with C.J. Bailey, but they don't. On defense, the only name I even recognize is Joshua Victor. I'm sure they got other dudes, but that schedule and that quarterback, North Carolina State, number 4. Number 3, SMU. Head coach, Rhett Lashley. Quarterback, Kevin Jennings. Coming back yet for another year. Great quarterback. A lot of experience. Took SMU to the playoffs a couple of years ago. He wants to get back. And you know who he got in the portal to help him out was East Carolina, Kenneth Maynard. Pirate Gator, East Carolina slot receiver Yamir Knight is going to be joining Kevin Jennings. They got to transfer a highly recruited Jalen Hell. He went to Alabama, didn't do much there in the portal. SMU believes they've got something with Hell. They got a great linebacker crew. We talked about that in the Spotlight series for the SMU. Alexander Kilgore and Brandon Booker. Kilgore and Booker, the linebackers at SMU. Kendrick Raphael, the running back. I wish they had a different, higher quality running back than that. Maybe he can prove me wrong. SMU at number 3, but I could not have them at number 2. You want to talk about running backs? Jeff Brom, head coach. Isaac Brown, who should be on everybody's top 10, top 12 Heisman watch list. But they don't just have Isaac Brown. They have Kewan Brown, the guy who backed up Isaac Brown when he was nicked up last year. Louisville RB1, RB2 combination, absolutely brilliant for the Louisville Cardinals. Lincoln Kleinholz, the quarterback. Look what happened here. Jeff Brom, a couple of years ago, brought in a pocket passer, quick releaser, Miller Moss. Did the same thing last year. Now the Louisville Cardinals have brought in a dude who's an athlete. Lincoln Kleinholz is an athlete. Now, he hasn't played much. He went to the Buckeyes. He has Ohio State Buckeyes, highly recruited quarterback out of high school. He's an athlete. He's a tough kid. Interesting. Again, Louisville, when I talked about how I wish SMU had a higher skill at the running back position, I do have some questions on Louisville's wide receiver room. They're bringing in Trey Richardson from Vanderbilt, but again, he didn't ever reach that level at Vanderbilt that you thought he was going to. LaWayne McCoy, Florida State Seminole fans know him, from Florida State to Louisville. The wide receiver room is going to be a mystery at Louisville. But they are going to run that ball, run that ball, run that ball. And then they have one of the most dynamic, impactful defensive lineman players in the country, not just the ACC. Clev Lubin is an absolute monster for the Louisville Cardinals. When you go up against the Louisville Cardinals, you got to know where Clev Lubin is. An absolute monster. Had a great season last year for Louisville Cardinals. They brought in an Iowan, a Hawkeye, Cohen Intringer, safety from the Hawkeyes, who's played a lot. Louisville, we got him at number 2. I think they're top to bottom. I think they have the second best talent in the conference. But the Miami Hurricanes are the most talented team in the conference. Darian Mensah, Mark Fletcher, oh boy. Cooper Backrap, Malachi Toney. Trying to think of names here. Muhammad Torrey, who's coming back for his 7th year. He played at Rutgers. Xavier Lucas, who played last year at Miami. Came from Wisconsin. I always forget about Damon Wilson. Very good rusher. Pass rusher from Missouri. They got him in the portal this year. Yeah, so it's going to be a very good year for Miami. They're going to win. They're going to win the ACC championship game. They're finally going to win their ACC championship. It's happening. Miami 41, Louisville 20. Put it in the books. Put it in the books. So, thus far, we've got Miami 41, Louisville 20 in the ACC championship game. We've got Texas 31, LSU 27 in the SEC championship game. We've got the Red Raiders 20, BYU 17 in the Big 12 championship game. And sometime this coming up week, we will have our final order of finish prediction for the Big Ten. Buckle up and brace for impact. And then after that, we would do our final prediction for the college football playoffs. So thank you, everybody, for listening in on our order of finish prediction. Our final one for the ACC. Miami over Louisville in the ACC championship game. Let me know how wrong I got it once again. Let me know how wrong I got it by not putting Clemson in the ACC championship game. I rattled off all of that talent. They've got talent all over the board at Clemson. Gideon Davidson, Wesco. We've named them. I'm not a believer in that quarterback, and I think Dabo Swinney has lost the room a little bit. I think he's lost his fastball. They're going to put a statue up in front of that stadium, that beautiful stadium in the beautiful place called Clemson. They're going to put a statue up for Dabo Swinney. But I think after this year, there's going to have to be a serious discussion at Clemson. All right. Bo Weevil, Greg just drank Miami. Mama Duck, you're good, Greg. Please keep us low. Look, again, people believe that I'm Greg the Cooler. People are falling for it. They think I'm Greg the Cooler.
I know you told your friend you're not okay, and tell me what's wrong and what.
Hold on, everybody. All right. Before we get to our main story, we're going to talk about the college football playoff discussions that are going on. Ricky Tungate, is the Holy Smokes Theater closed? No, it's not closed. It's not closed. This is our latest update. So we'll get back to that a little bit later on, but the Holy Smokes Theater is not closed. Don't really have an update since the last one. Thank you for the $5 holla, Ricky Tungate. Very much appreciated, sir. Thank you, Mr. Indiana Hoosier. Christopher Hooter, $5 holla super chat. As an LSU SEC guy, my preference, number one, UNC plus Virginia, the wine and cheese. Number two, North Carolina and Kansas, truck stop. Number three, stay at 16. Adding Clemson, Florida State, Miami, unfair to South Carolina and to the Gators. Thank you, Christopher Hooter. Thank you for the $5 holler. I do apologize to Ricky Tungate and Christopher Hooter. I know you put those $5 super chats in quite a bit ago, but I was going through my my order of finished prediction. But I do want to thank both of you, sir, Christopher Hooter and Ricky Tungate, for your very kind super chats. Thank you so very much. We've got this buffoon $10 holla. Greg, thank you for your excellent coverage. I appreciate those kind words. Thank you very much. 48 million seems too high for the vast majority of schools. Are any schools pushing to lower the PCSA cap? Might they use the House of Rep to do so? I'm sure there are. Right, I'm sure there is people are going to be pushing to lower the cap. Again, we're going into the House. It's a whole new kettle of fish. There are different leaders. What I find interesting, this buffoon, is I have yet to see any language that describes how this $48 million get raised over the next 2 years, over the next 5 years, over the next 10 years. Is it indexed to inflation? Exactly what is the mechanism for this number to be raised? Remember, when we first had this $20.5 million supposed cap, it was very difficult for a lot of athletic departments to have rev share go to the student athletes, $20.5 million. It was very difficult to get this done for many athletic departments. And then suddenly, in the next year, that number was way too low for the top programs. Now it's $48 million for all sports. Not just foot. Well, it's $43.8 million for all sports, and then it's $5 million for women in non-revenue sports. So it's $43.8 million for the revenue sports, the basketball and football. That's probably going to seem low for some programs out there, and it's going to seem really high for the majority of programs out there. But if it's going to be deemed too low by the top programs, they're going to try to circumvent that cap, and hopefully they don't, or if they do, they get caught and all that stuff happens. So my main question around that $48 million is, and I know it's not the question you're asking, but how do they raise it in the future? Does it stay at $43.8 million for revenue sports of basketball and football? Because if it stays there, if it's the same number 3 years from now, and we have to go back to Congress to get it changed, what a mess that's going to be. I'm hoping there's some formula that automatically raises it or reduces it instead of just being a number that they pull out of thin air and we got to go back to Congress every time we have to make the adjustment on the number. Getting back to your statement, your very kind super chat, this buffoon, $48 million is going to be it's going to be really high. It's going to be really high for most programs. And I do think there's probably going to be a push in the House from some to lower that number. We're going to have to watch it play out, this buffoon. We're going to have to watch it play out. Thank you very kindly. Thank you for the $10 holler. Very much appreciated. We've got Kenneth Maynard, $10 holla. The Pirate Gator Maynard. Miami versus North Carolina State is a real possibility for the ACC championship. Wouldn't be the first time a team with a favorable schedule got to Charlotte. It could be that. North Carolina State's schedule is going to be really impactful. North Carolina State, if they've got the team that they think they've got, they're going to win a lot of conference games. Their toughest game is at home against Louisville. Their toughest road game is at Florida State. You compare that against any other team in the ACC, and they've all got much more difficult schedules on paper. And CJ Bailey, he had an unbelievable year last year. That guy can play football. CJ Bailey, you could be right, Kenneth Maynard. Maybe I should have put North Carolina. I had North Carolina State in the ACC championship game a couple of years ago. For those who've been watching this program, and I fell in love with them. I married the Wolfpack, and I destroyed the Wolfpack. Now, again, I am going to be Greg the Gold this year. So there's no fear about that, but I don't want to put any more fear into the Wolfpack heart. So I could not put North Carolina State in the championship game. I could not do it to Justin Lucas and the other Wolfpack that watch this program. I could not do that. I do have a heart, you know. Miami versus North Carolina State, that could be it. That could be it. Gator, Pirate, Gator, Maynard. We've got a membership, 29 months. Holy smokes. From the seminal win, from the man himself, the man, the myth, the legend, Mohr Simmons. Greg, what is Notre Dame's media payout per year? I think from NBC, I want to say it's something like a little bit below $50 million. If you total up all their media money when it comes to the ACC network, they're flirting with the $70 million. Something like that. It's not quite the tier 1 number that the Big Ten has, but it's pretty good. And we've also heard that they're paid out on a sliding scale. It's not exactly, it's like it depending on what their schedule looks like. There's only 7 home games. We've heard that it's about $50 million or a little less. But it's a sliding scale. So, thank you, Mohr Simmons. Thank you so much for being a member for 29 months. Holy smokes. Holy smokes. All right. It's in section 115, 116. I've tried to send it to you on Twitter, but new account, everything gets filtered. It goes up automatically with inflation. And a 20-member commission decides to increase or decrease. A 20-member commission? A 20-member commission? All right, I'm going to have to look at that later on. $50 million, $17 million, something like that. A little shy of $70 million. What's the holdup, Greg? Don't know what you mean by that. I'm trying to find something on the computer. All right, I'll take a look at that later. College football playoffs. Before we get to the 19-5, just going to go through a little bit here. This is Pat Forday. Pat Forday. Sports Illustrated. I think there's been a lot of movement among coaches and athletic directors around the country that 24 is the right number. Tony Petitti, the Big Ten commissioner. Now, Pat Forte says, I'm still adamantly opposed to doubling the playoff from its current size. The damage done to the regular season, the dilution of a competitive postseason product, the rewarding of above average team, the participation trophy mentality, the scheduling gymnastics that would have to be done to make it work. Yuck. 12 has been a good format in the only 2 years of its existence. But I don't have a vote. None of us does beyond Petitti and SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey, although they are open to input from the other FBS commissioners, particularly Jim Phillips of the ACC and Brett Yormark of the Big 12. That's why they swing. Their swing in favor of the Petitti plan is significant. If Petitti can push his playoff plan across the finish line, while his league is simultaneously taking over the sport, it would be a pretty incredible run of success. Likely next steps, according to sources familiar with the process, a presentation of revenue projections that would come from a 2014 model at the CFP Management Committee meeting in August, this month, August. Then perhaps a vote at the following meeting in September. The process could also be fast-tracked via virtual meetings or slow-played as late as December, sources caution. Playoff talks have rarely followed a tidy timeline. Pat Forte, Sports Illustrated, while noting that the Big Ten has withdrawn its push for a set number of automatic playoff bids, Petitti laid out in his case for a 24-team format Tuesday. He argued that it would actually enhance the regular season more than damaging it, with concentric circles of motivation depending where teams stand in the season's latter stages. At the outer circle, teams are simply trying to make the field, earn the last bids. In the next circle, more accomplished teams are jockeying for home playoff games. Next, a first round bye. In the innermost circle is competing for top seeding and the most provincial path through the bracket. In other words, it's everything that we have talked about at Peek Around the Corner. We've talked about the different layers of incentives during the regular season when it comes to trying to qualify for the playoff of 24, trying to get that 17 through 24, trying to get that 9 through 16, that first round home game, or a first round bye, second round home game in seeds 1 through 8. It's exactly what Tony Petitti is now talking about. Tony Petitti. The idea is keeping as many teams in contention for as long as possible. Play as many meaningful games for as long as you can. The format creates all kinds of incentives. If you think about a 24-team playoff, a bunch of teams are going to be ranked between 16 and 24. They're just trying to make sure they're in. You're going to have teams playing until the very end to see if they're in. You're going to have teams playing to see if they can get a home game. So every game is going to matter because your seeding is always going to be determined by somebody else. I think we've got a lot of different incentives all across the format that keep you playing hard until the very end. Secondly, I think the idea that we're playing more competitive games is going to be crucial. And the PATC money shot of the article, I actually think the media will start writing more about how sleeper Minnesota. about sleeper Minnesota could find a way to the top 24 if they win this next game. I'm just using them as an example. It could be anybody. Finally, Minnesota does not get hit by a stray bullet. Finally, Tony Petitti says the name Minnesota. I had to throw that in there. Another part of Petitti's pitch for 24 is less supportable. More bids would essentially serve to justify the runaway spending by programs on football. ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips and others have made the same argument. It's a fake reward and an accounting trick. It's trying to make a 9-3 or 8-4 season seem like a greater accomplishment because it resulted in a playoff bid as opposed to a real-life Quest Bowl bid. We've got institutions making incredible investments in football, and it's really important to maintain that commitment to invest, Petitti said. You have to have the opportunity to play to maintain that investment. While the bowl system has done great things for college football for a really long time, when you get in the playoff world like this, success is defined very specifically about the playoff. A willingness to overpay a wide receiver in the portal, to overpay a defensive coordinator, to overpay the department's 12 assistant athletic directors should not drive the size of the college football playoff. Making the field should be the hardest thing to do in college sports, a just reward for success in the most impactful regular season in college sports. And finally, in the article by Pat Forday, Sports Illustrated, but the tide has turned. PATC in Petitti's way. Army of 24. On the field and in the boardroom. His league is loaded at quarterback, improved in coaching ranks, and making records amount of money. Times have never been better. No wonder Tony Petitti is out in front more this week than any other point in his 3-year tenure. He's winning big and might have more defining victories to come in the near future. The tide has turned in Petitti's way when it comes to the college football playoffs of 24 teams. Again, there's going to be a very important meeting in the month of August. They're all going to be getting numbers, projections on how much more money a 23-game, 24-team college football playoffs is going to receive by the media partners versus an 11-game, 12-team football playoffs that we are now enjoying. It's going to have to bring in a 24-team playoff is going to have to bring in a whole lot more money because it has to replace the conference championship game money that everybody gets. So if the projections are going to have to come in very high, and if they do, that's probably going to be the last hurdle to get over, to go from a 12-team playoff format to a 24. More access, more drama, more storylines, keeping everybody together. Kumbaya. 24-team playoffs, Army of 24. We're getting closer and closer and closer to our victory. All right, that's the latest update. Now let's get to the big story of today. Christopher Hooter, $2 holla, $2 holla. Not a 24 college football playoff again. It's an overt money grab. You know what? I think you're right. I think you're right, Christopher Hooter. I think it's a money grab. not only because of more money in the playoffs, but more money during the regular season. More eyeballs on more games, because more games are going to be important to the seeding of the college football playoffs. More storylines, more captivated audience, more captivated fan bases later into the season. More tickets bought and sold, more t-shirts, more beers drank in the month of November. Yeah, it's a money grab because it's an interest grab. The NFL did it. The NBA did it. The NHL did it. Major League Baseball did it. They've all done it. Why? Because it actually increases the value of the regular season. The college football purists, and I love you all. I love every one of you. You've got it all wrong. Josh Pate and others have got it all wrong. You think they only got it wrong when it comes to 4 versus 12? They're going to be wrong on 12 versus 24. Everybody talked about how, oh boy, the regular season is going to be, the regular season is not going to be worth as much if we go from 4 teams to 12 teams. Well, that was completely shattered. When we go to 24, when Battlestrap and Frank Potter and California Bear in the chat room are having arguments late in the season about their teams, they should have my team should be 17 or 18 or 19, not 20, 21, 22. My team should have a first round bye. My team should have a first round home game. My team should get in. My team should get a money grab, interest grab. It's going to elevate the whole sport. We are this close to victory. This close to victory. I thank you for the $2 holler, Christopher Hooder. Very much appreciate it, sir. Okay, so a door was open to us here. 19-5. I talked about it at the beginning of the show. I set the table. And then after this, we'll go to your phone calls. A door was open to us. The flirtation of a big scoop from the Big Ten was more real than I even thought it was. Now, we talked about how, at Peek Around the Corner, we talked about how the Big Ten had a very large expansion candidate list. I discussed that over and over and over again. Many, many, many months ago. Large group of teams. About a month after I reported this and talked about it almost every day, Brett McMurphy came on and did a few shows, and he said that the Big Ten had a very large candidate list. He basically said everybody. Every AAU school in the ACC, every AAU school in the Big 12 are on the Big Ten candidate list. He had sources telling him all these teams were seriously being looked at for the Big Ten whenever the next realignment wave would happen. And that was true. One of the reasons why the candidate list was so big is because, first of all, the Big Ten wanted to do their due diligence once again. They hadn't really had done this type of deep dive and evaluations of potential Big Ten candidates since Kevin Warren had done it. So they wanted to do one under Tony Petitti. Those were one of the items that were explained to me in the last 24 hours. The other reason why they did a large candidate list was The Big Ten essentially knows who their top couple of targets are, regardless, right? And we've talked about it, Notre Dame, North Carolina. But another reason why they did a large candidate list, and they did a deep dive on way more than 10 universities, is because there was a belief that they could go to 4 teams in the expansion, or possibly even more. But 4 was just as realistic as expanding with 2. So while the top targets are putting nailed down, the top targets might not go to the Big Ten. So now you really got to go deep on that candidate list and see if a 4-team big scoop would work, and combinations of big scoops would work. The dynamics between those 4 schools. What part of the country do you want to cover with those 4 schools? The timing is essential, because you really can't go with Big 12 schools until you get to the end, 2029 and 2030. The Big Ten wants to leave those options open. One of the reasons why the Big Ten really would rather not do it now, their expansion, they'd rather wait. So the many discussions among a large bandwidth of potential candidates, all of that was real, and all of that was because the Big Ten truly did not know who was going to be available to them. But even more importantly, as we're talking today, they did not have a decision made on 2 or 4 or even possibly 6. But 4 was as likely as 2, the number of schools that the Big Ten was going to expand with. So that leads us up to today. What happened over the many months, as we reported in real time, there's a lot of talks were going on, a lot of positioning. Some schools were way more aggressive than others. But there was a team of believers out there that they thought they had a really good shot at getting picked up from the Big Ten or the SEC. There's a lot of ACC schools and leaders out there that did not believe in the Big Ten SEC small scoop scenario. So this 19-5 has hit a lot of schools not in a good way. If we would not have had all these months of discussions, if we would not had the Florida State and Clemson's victory in the courts versus the ACC, in which the Florida State and Clemson won the right, and they won the rights for all the ACC schools to be able to have first-party talks with any conference they wanted. They won the right. They figured out how much it would cost them to get out of the ACC. They won the right that the ACC had to accept the check that those schools would write to the ACC. Because all of that happened. A lot of schools were able to talk with the Big Ten and the SEC. And a lot of those schools came out of those talks with a pretty good impression that it was not going to be small scoop. It was going to be at least small scoop, big scoop, and with chances rising that it was going to be big scoop, big scoop. So a lot of these schools think they're getting screwed by this 19-5. more than they would have been before. And there's another part to this. I have talked honestly and openly about the relationship between Notre Dame and the ACC. There's been some articles out lately that have tried to dismiss talks of a cold relationship. But I'm going to go ahead and rely and lean on my Notre Dame source who gave us the story about the Notre Dame men's hockey program joining the Big Ten. We also broke that story nationally. So I'm going to go ahead and rely on them. The relationship is incredibly poor. And if you think that Florida State and Clemson and Duke and Georgia Tech and Virginia Tech, you think these schools look at 19-5, you think they're looking at this, come on. You think they're looking at this and they're just going to let this go by, knowing that it completely, unbelievably favors Notre Dame once again, why they get screwed? The 19-5 battle has already begun. It's already begun. The door was open to us yesterday. There's going to be a battle over this. There's going to be some threats over this. Florida State and Clemson went to the courts. Notre Dame voted to sue Clemson and Florida State. Notre Dame got the ACC to expand. Florida State and Clemson did not want. Literally, the battle is going to be waged. A door was opened to us. I'm going to be very careful in how I say this. I'm going to use the word allegedly. Allegedly. There are schools that are going to be in the mix. They're going to be representatives of schools that are going to be in the mix when it comes to this battle that we haven't heard from before. Let's just say there are going to be people who are going to be representing interest of a Georgia Tech, for example, in the battle of 19-5. There are going to be people with interest battling for Duke on this issue of 19-5. So it's going to be much more than just Florida State and Clemson. I can assure you that this battle has already begun. The formation of forces that are going to try to push that boulder over the cliff has already begun. And we're going to hear more about this. This was not the fight that the Big Ten and the SEC decided to have when it comes to the Senate, because they needed that antitrust exemption bolted into the bill. That cannot be, it could be stripped away by Cruz and Cantwell, but then they would be, this is how they decided the battle. This is how they decided to try to get a bill that would work for them. Now, this battle remains in the House, in the courts. We'll see if Cruz, Cantwell, and Cody can keep the 19-5 in there. But it is going to be a battle. And I'm not even sure that 20 is going to suffice. the old concept of 20-5 may not be enough. And if that does survive everything, somehow that 19-5 survives the House and gets, because of the pressure of the president putting on the Republicans in the House to get it done, there's going to be a lot of court action. The House strategy was open to us on Friday morning. We were told that the Big Ten looked like they were going to support it in the Senate. That was breaking news Friday night, but we did a show early on Friday, and we gave you all the peek around the corner that there was this House strategy that was forming, and that's the House strategy that North Carolina talked about. Murphy reporting. UN Chancellor Lee Roberts on Protect the College Sports Act. I asked him specifically about the anti-expansion provisions. He indicated the bill could undergo more changes in the House. If it's not perfect. Now this is coming from, once again, North Carolina Chancellor Lee Roberts. It's not perfect, but we think it's an important step forward in trying to bring more rationality and some more predictability to athletic budgets, which are, as I say, on an unsustainable path. UNC Lee Roberts on the Protect the College Sports Act. It's not exactly the way we'd write it if we could write it ourselves. But that's always going to be true with comprehensive federal legislation. There's an opportunity, as it moves from the Senate to the House, to try to revise it further. But I think even as written, it's an improvement on the status quo. Hold on one second here. Everybody hold on one moment, please. So this is the North Carolina strategy. They do not want that expansion part in that bill, but they wanted to get these other changes in. They wanted this to get through the Senate. And we also, we mentioned this on that Friday morning. We also believe Virginia is in the same position as North Carolina. Get these other changes done, and then we're going to try to get that 19-5 revised in the House. Sure, the antitrust can't... Look, if the antitrust is taken out, the bill collapses. There's no reason for anybody to support the bill. But the Big Ten and the SEC had to see that language in the bill. That is what they've been fighting for 7 years. They needed to see that in the bill. Okay, now it's in the bill. Now they're going to fight for the remaining parts, the 19-5 being the big one. And if Cantwell and Cruz do not budge on that, then this thing probably isn't going to pass. If they budge on that, it probably will pass. And if Cruz and Cantwell says, well, if you do that, we take the antitrust thing out, then they're going to be killing their own bill. The Big Ten and the SEC needed to get that antitrust exemption part at least printed in the bill. That's what they've been fighting for, and now they got it. Now they're going to see if they can squeeze in any more. And there's going to be pressure now by names, interest, politicians that are not in the Big Ten and SEC circle. There's going to be people from Georgia Tech interest, Pittsburgh interest, North Carolina's interest, Florida State, Tallahassee, Pickens, South Carolina. I mean, you're going to have more different voices now jumping into the fray in the House, not the Senate, saying this 19-5, if you keep that in there, we're going to take you to the courts anyways. So you better get it out now. That is the House strategy. And because there has been so many talks and discussions, and you saw what we reported on, and a week later Ross Dellinger reported on, elevated talks. Because of all those talks, there's a handful of institutions in ACC that are like, man, we got a chance here. We're really invested. We're really invested to battle the 19-5. In fact, it would not surprise me at all if the Big Ten and the SEC are saying, yeah, we would like to do that, but we can't do that. Can you affect change? There are going to be new voices in the ring that Cantwell, Cruz, and Cody are going to have to deal with. Not just Big Ten, SEC. And it's already starting to happen. People are loading up. Look, the University of North Carolina, I know people keep thinking they're not interested, but there is a faction at North Carolina that would like to see the ACC grow and whatever. Let's not get it twisted. The University of North Carolina, we saw it in FOIA, the Freedom of Information. We saw Brian Murphy, WRAL. We've seen the reporting on it. North Carolina spent $700,000 on a consultant group in conference affiliation before all the power went to the Board of Governors. North Carolina has invested a lot in making sure their options are open for a different conference affiliation. They have a big hurdle at the Board of Governors, but people are getting trapped in because North Carolina they signed the support of the PCSA and all that. North Carolina did not want to expand the conference. North Carolina did not vote to sue Clemson and Florida State. North Carolina knows the belle of the ball when it comes to the top of the SEC and the Big Ten target list. But they've got to play this political game, and they're playing it. But now it's going to be open season. Now there is nothing. You've got that stuff in the Senate bill that you wanted. What is stopping from Clemson's people really pressing the 19-5 issue? What's going to stop the Florida State people in Tallahassee from really pushing the 19-5? What do they got to lose now? Remember, they got this thing, that part of the bill, okay, gets voted on the Senate. Let's say it passes the Senate. There's nothing. What is stopping them from pushing all the chips in? They're looking at the advantage that Notre Dame has on them. They're looking at the advantage that University of South Florida has on them. South Florida don't have to be independent for 5 years. They're going to push all their chips in the table. Georgia Tech, Duke, Virginia, they've got nothing else to lose. And now Cruz, Cantwell, and Cody, they do have something to lose. Because they got this supposedly thing passed in the Senate. There's going to be a battle here. And it's going to look different. It's in a different location, House, different leaders, House, different interests battling the 19 and 5. And it's already begun. It has. It's already begun. Let me say one more thing. You saw the reporting. You saw the reporting of that when the ACC got together, they talked about the the PCSA, should they support it or not, and Ross Dellinger said there was a small number of schools that said they don't want to support it because of the 19 and 5. And there's other schools, and then later on, Ross Dellinger kind of made it sound like there's a pretty long list. He named off about 5 schools and then said, and others. They said that in an ACC meeting. They said that in front of their brothers and sisters of other ACC schools that will not have the opportunity to jump to a P2 conference. They said that in that setting in front of their commissioner. Outside of that room, they're going to be even way more aggressive. Of course they are. They've got nothing left to lose. A couple of these universities already took their biggest and greatest risk. They went to the courts against their own conference. This is nothing compared to that. This is nothing. This is a government who's arbitrarily coming down and treating some universities different than others. Based upon what? Based upon past grievances from the senators who are sponsoring the bill. I'm sorry, that's the truth. Why are you treating Florida State's freedom of association differently than Notre Dame's? Differently than UConn? I'm sorry. But they're all taking it to court. And you're going to lose, Cruz, Cantwell, and Cody. You're going to lose. Because that's the First Amendment. Private, it's a private, nonprofit organization. That's what these conferences are. The Ohio State forget about the Buckeyes. The Duke Blue Devils. They're private. Let me see another example. Clemson, Florida State, North Carolina, Pittsburgh. Now they're quasi. We'll just take Florida State. You know the money that they make in donations and ticket sales and merchandise and all that? There's no owner that's pocketing that money. They're not pocketing that. They're spending it on facilities, on the players, on the coaches, on non-revenue sports. They're spending that money. All these athletic departments are spending that money. They're spending down. They're trying to pay down their debt. There's not franchise ownership. These are public universities, but they're involved in a private, nonprofit organization called an athletic conference. It's a freedom of association. Period. And some schools are being treated quite differently than others in this bill. So the biggest points that I wanted to point out today on this show, the door was open to us at Peak Around the Corner, and I wanted to deliver it today, was one, the Big Ten's flirtation with the Big Scoop was way more serious than even I knew they were considering it, but at a level that I did not anticipate. That's number one. And number two, that is probably one of the biggest reasons why there's going to be a lot more schools battling over this 19-5 in the current PCSA written revised bill. At least we think it's still in the bill. Anyways, I'm going to go to phone calls, your super chats. Let's get on with it. Thank you for the 193 people who have joined us. Give us a call. All 193 people, give us a call. 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. Give us a call. Let me know what you're thinking.
Call from
Mohr Simmons.
Mohr Simmons, the floor is yours.
Yes, Greg.
Yes, sir.
You touched on, in your monologue, you did touch on about North Carolina and Tobacco Road. Okay, look, Friday when this came down about Big Ten, SEC, I'm not going to say KVN, that they went along with this 19-5.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, it put a bad taste in Florida State mouth and the fan base. It really did. Because nobody didn't see this coming, that neither one of these conferences would have did what they did. I'm not going to put all the blame on them, on these conferences. They got to do what's in the best interest of the conference. So I'm not harping on that. Now, I'm going to talk about Tobacco Road, North Carolina. And you got to call it for what it is. Okay. North Carolina spent a lot of money. They invested in the ACC, headquarters right there in Charlotte, North Carolina. So they invested in that. Yes, you have people in North Carolina that want North Carolina to stay in North Carolina. That's why they handcuff with the NC State, and as well as the other state schools that's in North Carolina there. If that's where they want to stay and die, let them stay there and die. But to put harm on Florida State, Clemson, the two schools that have made the ACC profitable, and with what we have done, I mean, that's like a slap in the face. It's bad enough we got it from Notre Dame. We sat there for years with Notre Dame with the mess. Okay? So I just want everybody to know, when it came to this move, yes, I feel bad for North Carolina, but doggone it, man. That right there, they should know it's going to be a backlash. Now, moving forward, I'm going to get off of North Carolina.
Yep.
Moving forward, this came down Friday, about 1905. Now, I think, I'm trying to remember, I had a couple of sources that I listened to. I just listened to. At first, I thought it was crazy, but I know a couple of years back when we were talking about this realignment, and one of the options was independence back then about Florida State and how they would go back, because Florida State was once independent. A lot of stuff came out, and one of the things that came out, I think this was Saturday morning. I think Saturday morning. It could have been this morning. I can't even remember what they were saying, and they were throwing out stuff as one that it's a good possibility. Florida State ain't got nothing to lose right now.
Yeah.
You're right. We don't have nothing to lose. But one of the options that they said was the nuclear option for us was to go ahead and just step out You got to bet on the school. You got to bet on your brand and step out. Let's do the independence. Get out of this conference because it's killing us. And the reason why I asked you this question, what Notre Dame brought in per year in football for its media contract and everything, because I looked at what Florida State brought in last year, and I know what they brought in last year, being with the ACC. If we go ahead and jump out independently, we'll make more money than what we getting paid right now with the ACC. Because keep in mind, ACC, they distribute the money. You know, they got this way of distributing money. But we will make more money than $44.9 million. I know that for a fact. But the thing was, they brought up all the scenario of if FSU step out, then they walk through the whole process. Who we going to have as a media partner? How we going to schedule games? And on top of it, in a roundabout way, if it was the SEC, since we're already playing SEC pretty much on a regular 2 games every year with the SEC, who's to say they increase it to 8 games that we play them? That would help Florida State for as home games, away game, whatever. We will make more money stepping out because of the revenue we bring in. Now, the only thing that they brought up was a concern to Florida State. They already pretty much have an idea of what the football will bring in. What was the concern for Florida State is the other sports. The other sports at Florida State, how they would navigate that. How would they move that?
That would be gruesome.
Right, and that's what they all said.
Yeah.
Football, they know the numbers. They've been looking at the numbers, and then on top of it, they also looked at potential media partners. That's out there because I brought this up several times on your show. I said, Greg, they're going to mess around. You're going to leave the door open for something that they least expect. If Notre Dame got to deal with NBC, who to say Florida State can't get a deal with somebody? And here's the wild card on behind that. From what I'm hearing, it's a possibility that it not only Florida State, but it can be another ACC school with Florida State coming in on a package deal on a media contract. That would be the nuclear option. So you get these schools tied together. Here's a package deal. I don't care if it's Florida State, Miami, Clemson, and they get a package deal. They go independent, and we'll weather this storm for 5 years. Weather the storm, whatever. But yes, that's the nuclear option. It's a possibility that this could change in the House. They're gonna throw so much towards this that it's I'm quite sure it's going to change in the House before we jump out here independently. But right now, yes, it leaves a bad taste in our mouth because, doggone it, I mean, how many times we going to go through something bad? You know, we already deal with the Florida State. I mean, we already deal with the ESPN where they screwed us over in 2023, I think. For getting in the playoffs. We dealt with that. We let it go. It took us a while. We let it go because we thought, okay, we might wind up going over here to the SEC. Lo and behold, I guess we still got to roll with the punches. So, some people may disagree with what I'm saying about the independent, but it have been talked about. The independence is on the table. There's a lot of stuff on the table. You'd be naive to think that there's no discussion about independence. It is on the table.
All right.
Yeah.
All I can say to that is going independent. is going to be pretty gruesome. USC looked at independent because they knew that the Pac-12 next media deal wasn't gonna get them to the stratification line of revenue that they needed to keep competing with the top of the Big Ten, top of the SEC. So they looked into it for months, and Mike Bowen said they did not come close to making it work.
Well, great.
Well, hold on a second. You would have to pay the exit fee.
Mm-hmm.
You would have to get a media deal, and Notre Dame has a national following. I know Florida State's a big brand. They're an incredibly valuable school, but there are barely anybody that can make an independent thing work. I mean, Notre Dame has been on the edge of not making it work, and they've made it work. Florida State might have to do it, but they don't want to do that. They would have to move all their teams out of the ACC. They would not be part of the ACC network. Their Olympic sports would suffer. It would be gruesome if they did this. They do not want to do this, so they're going to battle this 19-5 in the courts, I think, before they would ever go to independent. That's my opinion. Go ahead, sir.
And I agree with you. That's why I said what I said was that when they talked about the football part of it, they could see a pathway. But they looked at the other sports and what they would do with the other sports. Would they be able to park it in another conference or what? How would they navigate that? Because that was another option. Media partner, yeah, they can get a media partner. And if you're looking at the payout, if you're only looking at 44.9, what they brought in last year, and you saying Notre Dame probably at anywhere from 60 or 70 million, Florida State going to get up there. They will get up there. I'm not looking at getting to the Big Ten level, but I know we will do much better than what we getting right now at in the ACC. I mean, it'd be crazy because the eyeball, wherever we go and play, we're going to draw eyeballs. So, and like I said, the discussion was ongoing about if we was to go, and let's say, for example, the SEC is interested, but right now they're looking at this 19-5. Who said SEC may work a deal and say, okay, look, Florida State, yeah, we interested in y'all, we want y'all to come in, but if you go independent, okay, what we're going to do is schedule game. In other words, you be unofficially in the SEC. We're gonna throw some games y'all way because we benefit off of it as well as y'all benefit off of it. Like they said, it was different scenarios that were thrown out. And like I said, it was two sources, and they both said the same thing. So evidently, there's discussions about a nuclear situation if this really goes off the rail. Because at this point, just even what our AD said, which was, hey, we can't continue at where we at right now in this conference. He clearly stated that. So our hands would be tied where we would have to make a move. Mm-hmm. Ain't nobody going to sit in the ACC for 5 years prisoner, or I won't say 5 years, sitting there during the term of this contract that we signed to. That's just not viable. So that's the only thing I'm saying. Just don't be, if you hear anything from what I just said to you about independence, don't be shocked. That's the only thing I'm saying, because like I said, I heard it from two sources that was something that's on the table as a nuclear option, and that it will probably come with one or two other ACC schools as a package deal.
All right. I appreciate the call, Morris Simmons, Mr. Seminole. Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
from?
Christopher Huda.
Christopher Hooter, the floor is yours. How you doing, sir?
Hey, buddy, I'm doing good.
Good. Can you hold on for just 1 second? I do want to thank the people who have donated this program and help us keep the lights on and grow the channel. Yourself, Christopher Hooter, thank you very much. Eva Badger, Preston from Greensboro, Ricky Tungate, this buffoon, Kenneth Maynard, and Mr. Seminole, Morris Simmons. I just wanted to give a shout out. Thank you all. Thank you all for joining us. We got 186 people in the chat room. I appreciate it. Christopher Hooter, the floor is yours.
Well, I'm empathetic and sympathetic to the last caller.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, and the administration at Florida State, Clemson, and not just Florida State, Clemson, they went to court. No, they've dialed all the noise level up, right? Mm-hmm. We got to do something. We got to do something. We got to do something. And this legislation, it tells them de facto you ain't doing nothing. And I understand you just can't recork that bottle. But if Florida State, Clemson, and Miami and Georgia Tech get what they want, that is the end of the ACC, and as we know it anyway. And if it's the end of the ACC, it is absolute chaos in college football. Mm-hmm. So there's no right answer here. There's no needle to thread. There's only wrong answers. Right? okay, right.
Or there's answers that compute to our Constitution. In other words, freedom of association. And
well, then, yes,
I think we're
but that's going to blow it all up. But that'll blow it all up. There'll be 40 schools, and everybody else will be club football.
But it's always going to be blown up. I mean,
well, maybe so.
We're never. I would lean. Just my. Again, I give this opinion. I would always go with the Constitution. I don't think in this instance the Constitution is a suicide pact for college sports. I think freedom of association is vitally important. Nonprofit. I mean, what other nonprofit private organization is the government going to go to and say we're going to determine the cap on your membership? I mean, that is just utterly ridiculous. Look, from a Golden Gopher standpoint, this bill is probably perfect for Minnesota, right?
I agree.
We're not losing. Yep. This is perfect.
Good enough. It's good enough.
Because I'm a Golden Gopher, I gotta say this is how it should be. No. The Buckeyes should never, ever, 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 ever be chained to the University of Minnesota. Why should they be? Because of grievances? Because it at the very core, it's wrong. We want innovation. We want people to reach out and try to be better. We want people to try to get the higher ground. We want improvement. We want, I know it's difficult. There's lots of examples out there that realignment has hurt and damaged, and then there's other stories that it's really helped. It's a dog-eat-dog world out there. But I don't want the government determining ever that this is it. Oh, this is the alignment. This is how it's going to work. This is how it's. I mean, if they did, I tried to talk to a Golden Gopher off record. I said, can you imagine the government coming in and figuring out, okay, this is going to be this hockey conference and this hockey conference. And the guy said, oh my goodness, I never looked at it that way because the guy's a Minnesota hockey nut, right? And he went, oh my gosh. And he said, okay, now I understand. I mean, there's certain principles here. And this goes against those principles. This 19-5. it goes against the freedom of association. And I think it's going to get battled in the House. And then if it gets through the House, if Trump and all this political pressure and they get it through and they pass, this is going to be attacked in the courts severely. And I think the people who are attacking the courts are going to win. Because I don't see how they couldn't. But go ahead, Christopher Hooter. It's your phone call. I appreciate it.
Well, the other, okay, so we got our 19 limit now. Now the other, maybe you flip the coin and you say, okay, go nuts. You must add, you've got to go to 22 or 24. But maybe that's the other way to spin it, and then you placate the ones that are making all the noise right now. But it means every G6 school is done. They'll never be able to compete. It means maybe even half the Big 12 is done. And that's what Ted Cruz is worried about. He does not want Baylor's brand new stadium. If you drive right through on Interstate 35 and you look at it, it's a nice little stadium right by the lake, blah, blah, blah. He does not want that place mothballed. Mm-hmm. And I can appreciate that.
Yep.
But Baylor's not going to be in the final cut, period. So, and they don't have Mohr Richards or whatever the governor was that saved them last time, right? So, there's and I think I agree with you. We're going to end up where you're saying we're going to end up. But when we do, there aren't going to be many programs left. And there aren't going to be any G5s left, except for maybe the service academies. And is that really what we want?
Are we trying to make sure that everybody can compete for a national championship? What are we trying to do here? Because I think
to make sure everybody's viable, they can muddle along. I think that's what we're trying to do. They just can muddle along.
I think you muddle along. I mean, Minnesota has been muddling along for decades, right? I mean, most of us muddle along. Most of us don't have a chance. But every off season, we dream of a perfect year, kind of like what Indiana did, right? Christopher Hooter. There's nothing that you can do or say that can make the University of Minnesota, my beloved Golden Gophers, be at the same tier as the LSU Tigers in football. It's not going to happen. Yeah, once in a while we can beat you.
Well, at one time you were. But one time you guys were were the program.
Yeah, but that was different time, right? We didn't have a professional Vikings. But it doesn't mean we can't beat you once in a while. It doesn't mean we can't have a 10-win season. It doesn't mean we can't go to the playoffs. But we're never going to be at your tier. Never, ever, ever. And we're in the Big Ten. And if the LSU Tigers ever got a hockey program, once in a while you'd beat University of Minnesota hockey. But you're never going to be the University of Minnesota in hockey. Like Baylor, I love Baylor Bears. I love Baylor. But for most of their history, they've been, they can't compete with Texas. They're not going to be able to compete with Texas or Texas A&M.
Correct.
Once in a while they can. Maybe this year with DJ Lagway. I think too many people have looked into this congressional effort as somehow to be able to put equality in front of all these schools and everything. We don't want Congress to do that. They would screw all that up, and it's just not going to happen. The 19 and 5, I think that's, especially that 5, the provisional 5 years of independence, that's grievances.
I don't get the 5.
That is Maria Cantwell. That is Cruz. That is grievances based. That is helping nobody. It's not helping the conference that they leave. That's not helping the school. And that is just a grievance-based arbitrary number that I think it's pathetic. But go ahead, sir.
Well, yeah, I'm with you. I don't understand the 5. the 19 I get. I think the 19 is all about the ACC. But the 5, you got me what the 5 is about. That's a grievance thing. Yeah. I don't think there's any way the 5 survives the House of Representatives. But, there's no easy answers here, man. I'm just so thankful that my beloved LSU Tigers are in the Power 2, because you get a big program like Clemson or Miami in the ACC, and they're big programs, and and they're in a limbo. They're in this.
Yeah.
Even though Miami made the national championship game last year.
Yeah,
and
they're
yet
stacked and
yet they're
loaded
in a
this
precarious situation.
Yeah.
Right? You can't make this up.
Yeah.
So now you could say, well, and as an LSU guy, I would say Florida State had their opportunity in 1990 and they blew it, and that's on them.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe I'm less sympathetic to Florida State than I am Clemson and Miami, but still, that was a long time ago, right?
What if Miami wins the national championship this year?
Well, that would probably be good for college football.
What if Miami wins it this year? What if Clemson wins it the next year after that? What if Miami wins it the year after that? What if Florida State wins it after that and after that? And suddenly the ACC's getting more viewership. They've got packs of people going to the stadium. They get a new TV deal. ESPN re-ups them. They make more money. And what if somebody wants to join the ACC and they can't because of the stupid federal 19-5?
That would be hard to imagine. They're so top-heavy, right? You've named all the top football programs, right?
But when the top of the conference starts excelling, it trickles down to the middle and the bottom of the conference, right?
Well,
Success.
But they don't have the alumni bases. They don't have the enthusiasm. I don't know. It's hard to imagine.
Nobody thought Indiana was ever going to win a national championship. Michigan wins. The Buckeyes win.
Yeah, that's true.
The Big East basketball came out of nowhere in the 1980s. Out of nowhere. Patrick Ewing, Chris Mullen. They had a handful of really great players. The teams did great. They won national championships, St. John's and all this, Seton Hall. It came out of nowhere.
Villanova.
We don't know what the next iteration is of this pop-up couple of teams, maybe Stanford piles a whole bunch of money in their football program. Maybe the California Bears, maybe the ACC just rocks and rolls, and that's the place that everybody wants to be. And the ACC wants to invite because freedom of association. They want to bring in a school A, school B, school C, and they're not going to be able to do it because the federal government, in their incredible wisdom, said in 2026, this is how it has to be, and this is how it has to be forever.
Well, I hear you, but even in that rosy scenario, it's hard to imagine a situation where schools would not drop everything to join the SEC or the Big Ten.
Yeah.
There's just so many big programs with huge alumni bases, and in the Southeastern Conference, everybody's all in, right? So I don't know. There's no easy answers. I'm glad I'm not Ted Cruz. I'm glad I'm not Maria Cantwell. However this bill is diced and sliced, it's going to be diced and sliced in the House. Will it pass reconciliation? Who knows? And then the lawsuits are going to fly. So, anyway, all right, man.
You got it, buddy. Appreciate it. Thanks for the call.
Amen. Okay, talk to you. Okay, bye.
Tom DeBay, the Big East spawned UConn to be the top basketball program, so nothing stays forever.
Call from
Edward the Auburn Tiger.
Edward the Auburn Tiger. The floor is yours. How are you doing, sir?
We're doing fantastic, sir. How are you doing there, Mr.
I'm
Greg?
doing good. It's a beautiful Sunday, August 2nd. We are 4 Saturdays away from college football. It's a beautiful thing, sir. Are you getting ready for Byron Brown, your quarterback? You know, that guy's the guy's a big dude, right?
Yes, sir, he is. He is.
He's big. He threw over 3,000 yards, ran over 1,000 yards. You got Jeremiah Cobb. I don't know. I think you're going to be able to run that ball. Alex Golish, your new head coach. It's going to be a fascinating season at Auburn. Go ahead, sir.
Well, Greg, we're excited about this year. And that first game, I'm sure we're going to get the best of Baylor. And be honest with you, Auburn has not had a lot of success playing in Atlanta on the first game. So that's going to be pretty interesting. But on paper, we should get it done. But Greg, another great show, man. I love the job that you do. And I just want to say a few things. Number one, here we are. The thing that I keep hearing you say, like the last 3 to 4 weeks, and if you're even taking an L on it, is how, and it's not all you're doing, sometimes it's just the doors being open to you, as you described, but the underestimation of the strength and the validity of the talks between the schools. Yeah. It seems that every time a door is open to you, those conversations, those plans being made between the schools is even more apparent. And so what that tells me is you have more than just SEC, Big Ten schools working in conjunction here. You probably have probably 50%, 40% of the ACC. You throw in a Utah, a few other schools thinking they have a chance at this. They're all coordinating. And another thing that we're realizing, this bill started out very, very negative towards the SEC and Big Ten. But here in the last hour, what happened? The needle moved towards the SEC, towards the Big Ten. And what we're seeing is this, that everyone knows the bill would not be moving forward if it's not for the Big Ten and SEC. Why is that important? Because the House is not the Senate. The House, round 2. Yeah. Senate is round 1. Yeah. And so if you already know, and I'm sure with all these conversations, networks, you talked about networks last time you talked, you have the networks, you have the SEC, you have the Big Ten, and then you have all of these schools that have been in conversations with the Big Ten and SEC, all working together. And you're about to lock down, getting a big chunk of what you wanted in round 1. And you're heading towards round 2. And everybody knows you have the leverage because they know it does not pass round 1 without Big Ten and SEC. So the stage of round 2 is this. And so you're going into round 2, not having to change everything. Why? You got a big chunk of what you wanted in round 1. And so you take SEC schools, you take Big Ten schools, you take several ACC schools, you take a few Big 12 schools, and then you take all of these other schools that kind of want to move up another level. Yeah. And then they target these smaller items, well, I say smaller, but lesser items in terms of quantity to make these adjustments to get this bill more to where you want. Greg, what I'm hearing, like I said, based on these doors been open to you, and these seem to be more coordination between these schools, whether they're in the conference or out of the conference, because they're all working a plan. I don't see how the 19-5 survives. I don't see it. And then you have the House leadership who are SEC guys. And then you have a large portion of political power in the House coming from Big Ten country, coming from SEC country. The president wants the bill passed. Look at this, Greg. at any cost at this point. And he knows that they're in the red zone. They're within the 25-yard line of a touchdown. They're not going to hinge a bill not passing on a 19-5. Not when Big Ten has the leverage, SEC has the leverage, these schools have the leverage, and then you have this political power in the House. They're not going to put the whole bill, jeopardize the whole bill on that one piece of legislation. They're not going to do that, Greg. And I have to believe that with all these increased conversations, as you've been saying, each time you come on air and you say, man, it's worse, meaning better than what I thought. There's even more conversations, which tells you, I believe there is a game plan. There is a not for sure, but strong assurances that this is going to go through in a way that's going to be to the liking of the Big Ten and SEC. And I think we're really wasting time in getting courts involved because I don't think it's going to get there. Because the only way this bill passes in the House, the only way, is the SEC and the Big Ten. And we're almost there. Round one was probably the biggest challenge in terms of getting the SEC and Big Ten on board. But they're on board as long as the few small details, not small in terms of quality, but small in terms of quantity, are met. And it sounds like to me they're already rallying the wagons, and they're going to put everything on the table, put firm pressure in this distinct legislation that they don't have, but they want to have. And I honestly believe it's going to tilt the scale. And like you, either they're going to be totally, that cap is totally going to be removed for realignment, or it's going to be greatly adjusted in the favor of Big Ten and SEC. And man, this is going to be a beautiful thing. And I believe August or September is going to be fantastic. And I believe, depending on ESPN and its power, I think that's going to determine that 24-team playoff that you're talking about. I don't know how dug in ESPN is. If they're going to obviously have to make them a big deal, just like they're going to have to make the SEC a big deal. They're going to have to compensate them for that championship game and some. And they're going to have to greatly compensate ESPN. Ain't no doubt about it. But I believe it can all get done. I believe for sure the bill will get done because of all the coordination. But 2014, I feel better about what you're saying now than I was 2 months ago. So let me hear you talk about the response to that, Greg.
You got it. I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
And thanks, sir. Mm-hmm.
Edward the Auburn Tiger. Yeah, I think the round one, round two is a good metaphor. I think that's how a lot of people were looking at it, even before the news that broke Friday night. We were able to report it earlier Friday morning on our first live show that there was a House strategy that looked like it was going to get implemented by those in the Big Ten, the SEC, in North Carolina, and ACC schools. So this is far from over. We do have breaking news here. Well, not breaking news, but more clarity. I want to thank Expedition Greg. Hold on here 1 second here. I want to thank Greg Disney Adventures, Buckeye Greg. I want to thank Running with Scissors, a bunch of people, a couple of other people here. I can't recognize the handle. Ross Dellinger's reporting clarifying the Colorado eligibility case basically is, I'm going to break it down. From what I can gather, high school class of 2022, if you have played your 4 full years, 22, 23, 24, 25, the ruling came down. The district court in Colorado said you should have a 5th year. So we've heard names saying, okay, well, guys who got a 5th year, because going forward, you're going to have 5 years to play. You're going to have 5-year eligibility. So there are players in the class of 2022 are saying, well, I might go back and play another year of college football. I played only 4 years. I'm going to play my 5th in 2026. I'm going to think about it. But there's a clarification, and people who are following this during the live show, let me know if I got it wrong. But it sounds like any football player or basketball player would have needed to put their name in the transfer portal in January to be eligible for that 5th year in 2026. That's how I'm reading. Anybody in the chat room reading it different, let me know it. So if you are a guy who is sitting here in the month of August and says, well, it looks like I have another year of eligibility, but if you're a football player, basketball, but if you did not put your name in the transfer portal after you were done playing your 4th year, and there's no reason for you to put your name in it, well, some did. I'll give you an example. Minnesota Golden Gopher basketball player Cade Tyson, who had a great year for Minnesota. He was done with his 4th year, but he went ahead and put his name in the transfer portal in January because he anticipated that maybe somehow, because of this 5, his agent or whoever, or maybe himself, told himself, I'm going to put my name in the portal. He used to play for North Carolina. He transferred from Minnesota, had a great year last year. I think he's going to be eligible to get that 5th year, even though he's played 4 years. But that 5th year of eligibility. But there's not going to be many guys like him who went ahead and put their name in the portal. So all of these guys in basketball and football that we thought were going to now become eligible because of the clarification coming out of the court in Colorado, it doesn't sound like there's going to be that huge number. I think I've got this story correct. Again, let me know in the chat if you believe I did not get this story correct. We still got 197 people in the chat room. Holy smokes. After 3 hours, I do want to appreciate everybody for coming on in. Badger-born mouth fan. Evil Badger-born mouth fan with a very kind $5 super chat. Whoa, what happened there? Ooh, I did something. I did something wrong. I'm going to have to clean that up later. Right. Would the Big Ten and the SEC rather have the antitrust but have 19-5 or have neither? They would rather have the antitrust exemption. This is what they've been going to Washington, D.C. The NCAA, its member institutions, need that antitrust exemption. That was their biggest battle. And that's the one they focused on the most when it comes to the Senate vote. Now they're going to try to see if they can get any other things in the House that they would be in support of. And the one major one is getting rid of this 19-5. Don't know if they're going to be successful, but there's going to be a lot of pressure put on it. Most definitely the antitrust exemption is your answer, without a shadow of a doubt. without a shadow of a doubt. Thank you, Badger, Bournemouth fan. Appreciate it, sir. Thank you so much for the $5 holla. Okay, we've got the phone off the hook. I'm just going to take some comments, any super chats that come in, and then we're going to lock this thing up. We've been on the air for 3 hours and 4 minutes. No, I'm not a WWE fan. The notorious Sun Devil Greg has to go and catch day 2 of SummerSlam in his hometown. Can I be honest with you guys? I feel I'm not trying to be tribalistic, okay? I'm really not. I feel bad for WWE fans, for most of you. Not all of you. I mean, some of you like that type of professional wrestling. Some of you are running on nostalgia, your childhood, all that marketing and branding, and WWE is the SEC and the Big Ten of professional wrestling. But I feel bad for you because back in the day in AWA and the NWA and in AEW, you watch a pay-per-view of AD, it blows away what the WWE is doing, what they can do. I don't know. I've gotten to the point where I just feel bad for WWE fans. For most of you. Some of you, actually really like, but some of you are really just, you're missing out. You're missing out. That's all I can say. You are missing out. I don't want to say anymore. I don't want to get all you upset. There's a whole bunch of people upset with me in the chat room already because of our official order of finish prediction in the ACC conference. If you missed it, you can go back and watch the whole thing. But again, we broke down every team. And this was our final prediction. Miami Hurricanes, Louisville 1-2, SMU 3, the Wolfpack 4, the Golden Bears 5. And this was our prediction in the ACC championship game. Miami 41, Louisville 20. So Miami is going to go into the college football playoffs as a very high seed. Where are we going to put Louisville? Where is PATC going to put a Louisville? Where are we going to put a BYU? Can either one of them slip into the final prediction of the college football playoffs here in PATC country? Well, we're all going to have to wait and find out because we still have to do the Big Ten final prediction segment, and then we'll do the college football playoff segment. Yogi Buck is not upset. Thank you, Daniel Gorby. Is ECW still a thing? I don't think so. I stopped watching pro wrestling 25 years ago when the NWA and the WCW died. Parabellum, thanks for coming on in. Appreciate it. I grew up in the Mid-Atlantic Championship Jim Crockett Promotions, which blows away anything that is happening. I don't know how you guys do it. I get the big LED lights and the big moments but the rest, what is? I don't get it. You are welcome, Adam. Appreciate it. I'm glad you have a slow Mama Duck. Keep up the good work. Mama Duck. We'll see what happens. You got a lot of talent. And I like Dabble Sweeney. I do. I like Dabble. I think he's a good guy. Amy, thank you very much. Thanks everybody for dropping on in. I appreciate it. There will never be another Dusty Rhodes. Bracket Cat PCSA ends the silo threats for good. Going silo is risky, absolutely. All right, everybody. I want to thank you all for joining us. We're going to lock it up. We've been over in the air over 3 hours. We'll be live Monday, August 1st. I'm sorry, August 3rd. Excuse me. August 3rd, Monday. A beautiful day to talk college football. Until next time, from all of us at PATC, to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. And as always, God, family, golden, go.